this tension with suppliers, how do you
Mhm.
approach when that doesn't go to plan?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll give you an example. The longshoreman strike was only 3 days at the
Mm,
beginning of October, but we felt it throughout September, and we felt it after in October because the market was so worried about it. So what happened was we had a lot of shipments on the water, that we didn't get for big swaths of time in September and October. So what would have been our most profitable months, we were buying extremely expensive spot coffee and
mm.
having to fill the gaps because I can't go to, a huge customer and be like, "You just don't get coffee," right? No, I can't do that. So we lost like everything profit-wise during those 2 months, which should have been our gravy months.
Folks, following on from the success of Map It Forward's online mastermind groups in 2024, we'll be opening up 3 groups again in January 2025 for new participants. 2 of the groups, Sell More Coffee and Grow Your Coffee Business, will be offered again for people who already have businesses and want to expand their business in a supportive environment during these volatile times in the coffee industry. A new group called Start a Cafe or Roastery will be offered for the first time. This is for people who want to start a cafe or roastery in 2025 or are considering opening a coffee business one day in the future. Groups start the week commencing January 13th and prices start at $175 per month for 3 months. These mastermind groups have been a game changer for participants in 2024. So whether you're a coffee roaster, producer, cafe owner, or any other kind of business owner in the coffee industry, or you're hoping to be one in the future, head to mapitforward.coffee/group coaching to secure your spot by paying for the first month in advance or pay the full 3 months up front and get an 11% discount. Spots are limited, so head to our website or click the link in the description and sign up today. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 3 of a 5-part series with Anne, the CEO of Metropolis Coffee Company in Chicago. And in this episode, we're talking about what happens when things don't go to plan. Now, we would like to start this episode with perhaps one of the, guess the most gut-wrenching things that don't go to plan. And we would like to start this by sending our love and thoughts to Tony, one of the founders of Metropolis. Do you want to talk about what's going on, Anne?
Yeah, just briefly, and I'm comfortable sharing this because Tony also shared it on LinkedIn, with our coffee family.
Mm,
Tony's daughter, his middle daughter, Camille, is in hospice, right now, and Tony's one of my heroes, and he has been going through such a hard time. He and his wife Karen and their other 2 girls, and it's an honor to kind of pull the company through this time for
mm,
him and for his dad Jeff. So yeah, all the love going to his family, and just also the gratuity that I have for Tony and how he's handled this, and that he actually still brings motivation and inspiration to our team is
mm.
remarkable, and it really speaks to him and the company that he's built all these years.
And I'm not a religious person, but I do absolutely believe in prayer and in the I guess what happens when people focus on something together. So I would invite everyone to send the best vibes they possibly can to Tony and his family. And I, I've I didn't know how to reach out and say something when I saw the post. But this is the way I know how to do things. So,
And
go ahead.
it's so beautifully, and the, so after I put my post out about a week ago or a few days ago, Tony had put his out and had gotten a lot of love back, and he told me, because I struggle with being personal in public,
Mhm.
and I told him that, and his whole thing was do more of it, be more
Mm,
vulnerable, and what he did was he offered a gift to me and to the whole community, because he's been gone, he's been kind of out
wow.
of the sight, and it's hard for him to respond to stuff, and just to let people know what's happening with him is a gift, and I think that vulnerability is a lesson that I mean, it's a lesson I'm learning every day, and he's really helped with that.
There's something to be said. If anyone wants to know where to go to learn about how to lean into strength in vulnerability, Brene Brown's work around this is exceptional. And she talks about it from a scientific perspective. That her and her team have done a lot of research around the strength in vulnerability and the amount of courage that comes from being vulnerable. And I remember seeing Tony's post and thinking, there was a way to do that that would have been gross. And the way that he did it was so fucking classy and
Yeah.
so respectful to his own experience, but as well to his daughter's experience. And
Mhm.
it was just this moment of, hey guys, take a look into what's happening in my heart right now. And
Yeah.
it was done with such dignity.
Yeah. Tony doesn't have a disingenuous bone in his body, so I would expect nothing less. I mean,
Mm,
nobody's perfect, of course, and Tony and I have had issues throughout the years, but the respect level is so high.
mm,
And yeah, I totally agree. I was so proud of him. He didn't tell me he was going to do that, and
yeah, wow.
I was so proud of him. And so many people have reached out to me and said, "How can I, reach out to Tony?" I'm like, "Send him your love and your good vibes. He's happy to have them." So.
And everyone who's listening to this podcast, please, and no matter whether you're listening to this 2 years after it's happened, just spend 10 seconds and send some love to Tony and his family because it's always
Yeah,
welcome.
please. Yeah.
So, talking about, that's another layer of what Metropolis has been experiencing, right? Like the founding leadership team, um, it sounds like there have been many things that didn't go to plan in this last 24 months or 12 months.
Yeah.
When things don't go to plan, what happens to you as a leader? Like, how do you approach something like that? Because there are some leaders, and we've all seen them, that they lash out and make it everybody else's fault and everybody else's
Mhm.
problem. You need to do better. You need to step up. You need to make more money. You need to this. You need to that. I suspect you're not that kind of person. So, how do you approach when things don't go to plan?
Yeah. So this kind of harkens back to the joke I told you before about, I'm an MA in political science, and people always say, "How do you feel about, the fact that your degree has nothing to do with what you do?" And we've laughed, right? Politics and coffee are not related.
Yeah.
Um,
Hello.
but I had this great theory, political theory professor, Dr. Mihich, who I'm sure will listen to this. And one of the things, people often quote Machiavelli, and they quote the Prince, but one of the things you study are the discourses when you're in your MA,
Okay.
for poli sci. And he has this great Machiavelli discusses power, and I'm very interested about power and its impacts. But one of the things he discusses is the concept of virtue and fortuna. And fortuna is kind of like it's actually not a good thing. It's kind of like this river of negativity running through. But the concept of virtue and leadership, which I brought up in our EOS meetings and our L10s, is this idea that you are become a virtuoso at what you do. So you
Hmm.
become so good at it that when like think of it like you're a swimmer and the waves get really choppy, and but you're such a good swimmer that you're able to navigate in the moment, right? And you're able to
Mm.
pivot. So when I think of leadership, I think about becoming and trying to maintain a level of being a virtuoso at what I do. So I think that's constantly in the back of my mind. Like, you have navigated impossible seas before. You have done this before. So I keep that so I can kind of keep my buoyancy despite, the stuff that's happening. But on the other end of that, you do want to say, but I did my best and I
Yeah.
planned for this, and it's not fair. Well, I'm a big believer that life is not fair.
Mm.
And so I step back and I think of myself as a child, because when I was a child, I was always disgusted by adults that couldn't admit they had done something wrong or
Word.
apologize.
Word.
Right? Just like I felt this level of, just even at that age, disgust. And I don't want to be that person.
Mm.
So even if I feel like I couldn't, like I did my best and this isn't my fault and I want to blame somebody else, I simply think I'm accountable. It doesn't matter whose fault it was. It doesn't matter,
You're
if it
already
were,
winning. You're already winning,
yeah,
right?
I y y you just it's one of those things where circumstance is gonna happen. Also, people are gonna fuck it up.
Yeah.
They just are. And if they mostly don't fuck up and you really like working with them, you're gonna protect them,
Yeah.
and you're going to help them, and we're all going to learn from this together. So, I think of that, and so when these things happen to us and around us, that's the vein that I'm constantly thinking in. So that's kind of how this year has gone. I'm doing my best to plan for next year. I'm doing so very conservatively. This year, we we, as I mentioned in my post, like we've hit revenue goals as a company that I never imagined. Of course, I'm a salesperson through and through, so I
Mhm.
had like very lofty revenue goals that I've kind of knocked down a little bit around the end of Q1, thinking, okay, this is more reasonable. But we've hit them, and it's been wonderful. But on the other end of that, like all this other stuff has happened, so I'm really trying hard to bolster the success as well. Not to appease anxiety, not to be, a Pollyanna living in la la land,
Mm.
but just because it's the right thing to do for my team and for the company. So I'm constantly playing with those three things, right? Don't be disgusting, take accountability. You remember that you're a virtuoso and accentuate the positives.
Tell me what role trust plays in that.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, so between Tony and Jeff trusting me, it took a long time for them to really fully trust me. I mean, and to their credit, because Metropolis has had some leadership in the past that has maybe not done its best, and so they are not micromanagers, and
Mhm.
they give green lights to good ideas. So that trust bridge that we've built over the last several years has been a huge part of why we're successful today. Trusting me to run our L10 meetings, which is, we operate EOS at Metropolis, and really kind of put our heart and soul into that. And then I've had to learn that I can't do everything. As
That's
much
a
as
hard one to learn, isn't it?
it's
It has
so
been for
hard,
me.
right?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah,
It
our
annoys the
vice
shit out
president.
of me.
I know. And it's been amazing to see our managers this year really come into their own. All of our managers, with the exception of one, have started at the like lowest level jobs at Metropolis and have
Really?
worked their way up. Yes, I'm so proud of that. I started as a salesperson. Um, our director of sales started as a sales. I don't want to say low level, but very entry level, putting grocery
Mhm.
bags on shelves. Our vice president of operations it started bagging coffee, and they've all kind of been promoted up, and they do a
Wow.
fantastic job. Oh, and I should mention, like my favorite person that I work with, Bradley, our accounting manager started as a bookkeeper, kind of part time, and now he
Wow.
runs the finances of our company. And they're all part of our executive team, and I've had to trust them.
Mhm.
And we built these layers. But it's funny because our VP of Ops right now, Ryan, is going through a lot of the things that I went through,
Right.
where he's like, I just have to tell myself that they're doing it differently than I would, and that's okay. And
How do you how does that sit with you? Like, how many deep breaths are you taking every hour?
Mhm. A lot, and also it's a group of men, right? So communication can be, we're not talking about our feelings a lot. We're not talking about we're siloing information. So I'm constantly having to remind them, turn your head to the left and look at him in the eyes and tell him that you trust him or that it's okay. Or,
Yeah, right.
it's pretty rudimentary and I'm fine with that.
To the men out
Um,
there, we do love
yes,
you. We just
we
wish that you
do.
would emote a little more,
Communication.
communicate. Correct.
Yeah, because it really is all about communication.
Mm.
But so that trust has been built, and I'm a big believer that once trust is broken, it's broken for good.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate in that we have those layers in there. Not to say that it's perfect. We all gripe about each other and
Mhm.
complain, and I expect a certain amount of that, but there's a lot of love as well. So that's kind of what I'm hoping will continue to push us through probably what will be another challenging year.
On the other side of trust is stress. So
Mhm.
what do you think moments like this, 2024, does the stress, mm, like, I often see that these are beautiful moments for companies to see what their teams are made out of. And
Mhm.
I approach stress in these kinds of situations as a gift. Do you see stress? How do you see stress?
I think most stress is needless. You don't really, I mean, most stress is just a reaction.
Mhm.
And also I see stress as physical more than anything.
Okay.
Um, for myself, I find myself getting very tight in the
Mm.
shoulders. I find myself less able to kind of comprehend and absorb and process information. And I think it can be very dangerous over a long period of time.
Mhm.
On the other end of that, I feel like stress might be the only thing that moves the needle forward, and prevents complacency.
Mm.
I see that a lot in working with accountability within my team, that they need to feel a certain amount of, I don't even know if stress is the right word, but it's definitely part of it. Just kind of
Like a push?
a sense of urgency,
Mm.
that sense that stress can provide, that is critical. So it's both good and bad, but you know most of the time, it's just a response, right? Like, all this is happening. I'm going to say that I'm stressed. I'm going to feel stressed. But it kind of, hopefully there's enough things that we're able to kind of, say, yes, it is very stressful. And what are we going to do about it? Like, what's next?
Right. Right. And do your team, is well, let me ask it this way. Do you prep and prime the people that you lead to lean into moments where the heat may be turned up, let's say in a year like 2024, where a lot of people, even though they were ready, because I definitely got the vibe from your post that you anticipated that there needed to be a cushion built into the plan. And do you
Right.
prep a team for potentials that you can see coming, or do you just observe and let them experience it the way
Yeah.
they
So
need to?
this is something I'm still figuring out. I'm a fairly new leader. I'm only 3 years in, to this level of leadership. I really struggle with giving bad news. I
Mm.
hate to give bad news, especially for people that are working so hard
Mhm.
and are so committed. So I tend to keep things inside until the last minute when I
Okay.
have to let them know. I do have a few, confidants on my team that I will kind of spill the beans to, but say that I'm working on it, I'm chewing on it. Um, you know, I just think that there's this fine line in leadership where you are having to be the motivator, and you're the kind of reason, your team, if they love you, they work for you, but they also work with you.
Mm.
And so, you have to be honest, but you also have to keep them motivated to keep going. So I try really to embrace what's happening myself, and I take my time with it. I don't rush and go, "Oh my god, we're
You don't
fucked."
react. Yeah.
No, I try really hard not to. Also with owners, I try really hard to kind of temper my reactions, because it is also my job to, even if we are fucked, to keep calm about it, and
Mhm.
to say, how are we going to talk to the bank? How are we going to talk to our customers? How are we going to, talk to the team? So that tends to be my approach. And then once I have somewhat of a plan, I'll try to bring it to the team and say, okay, this is what happened. This is what I'm thinking. And then I'll say, is this the right way to go? And we kind of,
Wow.
I, I hate being told what to do, and
Mm.
they hate being told what to do because they're also leaders. So
Mm.
we figure it out together. But I always like to come in there with something, saying, this is what I thought that we should do, but throw rocks at it.
And tell me about that with regards to suppliers, because especially this year,
Mhm.
everything's shaken up. right? So
Right.
how
Right.
do you approach it when things don't go to plan and perhaps like everybody's struggling with financing right now? Everybody's
Mhm.
struggling with access to lines of credit and
Yeah.
just not being able to expect that the prices were going to jump as much as they did, but also the delays that happened in shipping.
Mm.
This tension with suppliers, how do you
Mhm.
approach when that doesn't go to plan?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll give you an example. The longshoreman strike was only 3 days at the
Mm,
beginning of October, but we felt it throughout September, and we felt it after in October because the market was so worried about it. So what happened was is we had a lot of shipments on the water, that we didn't get for big swaths of time in September and October. So what would have been our most profitable months, we were buying extremely expensive spot coffee and
mm,
having to fill the gaps because I can't go to, a huge customer and be like, "You just don't get coffee," right? No, I can't do that. So we lost like everything profit-wise during those 2 months, which should have been our gravy months, right? And I think I
right.
mentioned that.
In the post,
And
yeah.
so what it also did was, most specialty coffee companies, they won't tell you this, but they are 4 huge green coffee invoices away from going under. I mean,
Yeah.
some of these coffee invoices are huge. And we had to be honest with suppliers and be like, "Hey, like you're going to have to wait. Like we're still like, some of our terms are 60, 90 days with our wholesale customers and they're also struggling. So like it is a chain reaction. And those disappointments go deep and like the squeaky wheel gets the oil,
Mm,
and we kind of have had to live by that, I mean, during COVID, it was definitely like that, right? Cash flow issues, making sure people get paid on time. The first thing I always have to think about is my payroll,
mm,
just like anybody else, and keeping the lights on. But that's a real thing right now, and I'm so curious to know how many other specialty coffee companies are also feeling that cash flow constraint because in an industry that's already notoriously cash poor have this extra burden put on us. I mean, we're not even necessarily feeling what's happening with the green market yet, but we're feeling it with the shipping delays. We're feeling it
oh,
with
yeah.
having to fill gaps that we didn't plan to fill. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in the case of Metropolis in 1 month. So,
Wow.
yeah, I know. I know. I mean, talk about stress, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And people, this is the side of it that people don't understand.
Yeah.
And people seem to think that, well, you're a big company, you're making lots of money, you must have lots of room to move. Which
Yeah.
leads us to what the next episode's going to be about, which is what are the myths that people need to understand are actually myths that need to be busted about running a company like Metropolis. So join us for the next episode, folks. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. Please don't forget to show us some love by subscribing, liking, commenting, and most of all, sharing this podcast with your friends. Check the show notes for links, including our sponsors and our Patreon. And stay tuned for more great conversations on the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward.